Welcome to the Plot Thickens, the unofficial version, the stories that happen while stories are happening. Welcome to the Plot Thickens, the unofficial version. Hi, I'm Jan Falconer. I'm an author, consultant, podcaster, and a grandmother. And this is the Plot Thickens. This episode's called And Along Came Bill, behind the camera frame. If you watched the promotional videos I made for And Along Came Bill, you might have thought everything looked remarkably serene. There I was, in the garden or sitting on the couch, talking calmly about my new book. Hair done, lipstick on, glasses, looking reasonably presentable. That was about as far as the glamour went. It had been hot all week, and I mean properly hot. Even when it rained, the air was close, and I knew perfectly well that if I attempted eyeliner and the whole works, most of it would probably melt off. So lipstick, glasses, done. From the waist up, I looked remarkably composed. From the waist down, I was wearing shorts with paint on my knees. And then there was my home studio. People talk about having a home studio. Mine, the weekend, consisted of a laptop, a phone camera, and a tumble dryer I'd already sold. The tumble dryer was sitting in the middle of the lounge, waiting for the new owner to collect it. So I thought, well, I might as well put it to good use. On the top went the laptop and the camera, and off I went. Just beyond the frame, things looked rather different. Pictures were coming off the wall. Furniture had been moved. Things had been cleaned and cleared and sold, given away, or rediscovered after I'd forgotten where I'd put them. Then there was the fridge freezer. It was formerly my wine fridge, but I'm not drinking wine, so I sold that too. For another video, I had to move that out of the way. Fortunately, by then I'd found our trolley. And the remarkable thing is, none of this came through on the videos. I've got a good system for recording and editing, and thank goodness for Riverside. I can deal with that background noise, soften things, make everything sound as though I'm sitting in rather more controlled circumstances. But I was physically tired. Mentally, I was wide awake. And that is the interesting combination. My body wanted to stop, but my brain had other ideas. Had I updated that website? Had I checked the Nielsen ISBN information? What about the title editor? Had I linked the YouTube videos properly? How on earth was I going to make an audiobook? For goodness sake, Jan, is this going to be done? And then all of a sudden, I discovered Bill had nowhere to live. I had a website. Suki had a home. Jan Time has a home. The podcast has a home. And along came Bill. Bill was homeless. He desperately needed a home. Oh my goodness. And then I realized Bill wasn't alone. Not Netflix Natters and The Plot Thickens didn't really have a proper home either. They were all scattered to the north, east, south, west winds of the internet and on my YouTube channel. So somewhere between cleaning the walls, moving furniture, checking ISBNs and recording promotional videos, I created a new section on my website. Books and ideas. There. Bill has a home. And so do all the other ideas that don't quite belong under Suki or Jan Time. Perhaps even the novel, if I ever finish it. Meanwhile, there was the book itself. And by this time, And Along Came Bill had been written, edited, re-edited, checked, goodness knows how many times. Then the physical proof arrived. Now, if you've never published a book, the proof is your chance to actually hold the book in your hands and check it before you let it loose on the world. I looked at the digital version, of course I had, but there's something quite different about having the physical book in your hand in front of you. My proof copy is covered in marks. I read every single word, line by line. But this time, I did something important. I stopped reading it as the person who had written it. I read it as somebody who had bought the book. And that's when I found them. Igor Pagani became Pagani. Apparently, Igor has suddenly become Italian. And Mac lost his final K and became Mac, M-A-C. For goodness sake! And the spell checker hadn't complained. Why would it? Pagani is perfectly legitimate as a name. Mac is a perfectly legitimate word and a name. The problem was me. I knew what those words were supposed to say. I'd looked at them so many times that my brain simply supplied the correct version. Reading the proof as a reader made me see what was actually there on the page. And then I found 2 rogue blank pages. They were contributing nothing. They were saying nothing. They were simply sitting there, costing me money. So out they came. 71 pages became 69. Even nothing, I discovered, can cost money when you're publishing a book. Once I had the physical manuscript right, creating the ebook was relatively straightforward. Although I did suffer one small disappointment. The back page disappeared. I love that back page. Boo-hoo! The proper author copy arrived. There it is there. And that became promotional video number 5. I opened that package on camera, but the excitement wasn't manufactured. Oh my goodness. There really is something about holding the finished book in your hands. And of course, I checked it. The title page, the copyright page, every page was where it should be. No more rogue blank pages. And there it was. And along came Bill. Now, while all this was happening, ordinary life hadn't stopped. I'd driven down from Aberdeenshire at the beginning of the week. There was a list of jobs running through my head. Clean the loft, clean the walls throughout the house, move things, paint, list things on Vinted and Marketplace. Then I sold things, and I found things that I'd forgotten I owned. I kept up my daily walk and my exercises as well. After moving furniture, cleaning walls and climbing around the loft, you might reasonably think I'd done enough. Apparently not. Movement is part of my routine. As I get older, I want to keep moving, keep my joints working, and keep my flexibility. Even when I'm sitting at the computer, I can be doing leg exercises at the same time. And of course, I still had to eat. Well, when I'm at home with Daddy Dearest, this isn't really an issue. He cooks, he reminds me, and somehow 3 meals appear during the day, and my cups of tea and my water. When I'm on my own, though, I can become so absorbed in what I'm doing that lunchtime comes and goes without me noticing. Perhaps that explains why I've dropped another dress size. On the upside, I'm rediscovering clothes I haven't worn for a while, and my jeans are becoming decidedly baggy. So I've found a system. It's only me, and there seems very little point in heating up a big oven for one person. The air fryer has become my best friend. I make pastry at the beginning of the week, roll it out into little balls, and put them in the fridge. Then, at the end of the day, I take one out, roll it out, and then whatever filling I happen to have, I make myself a little pot pie. Oh my goodness, it's so good, it's delicious. A proper meal, plenty of water, a cup of tea, and then back to work. Meanwhile, several hundred miles north, she who must be listened to, the Meow of the North, Queen Suki and her merry band of merriment, had their own plot developing. Inspector Weber heard meows. Nobody else heard them. Weber persisted. Eventually, Daddy Dearest went outside to investigate. There was Spooky. Now, Spooky, we all assumed, was a boy. No kittens. Spooky was not a boy. Spooky has kittens. For goodness sake! Which created an administrative problem of its own. Because, under my entirely unofficial naming rules, boys have a Y and girls get an IE. So Spooky, S-P-O-O-K-Y, became Spooky, S-P-O-O-K-I-E, like Suki, S-U-K-I-E. See? And Abby, A-B-B-I-E. I'm pleased we've sorted all of that out. There is also a kitten currently known as the Lodger, another one of Spooky's kittens. And Daddy Dearest appears to be becoming a little too fond of it. Queen Suki is watching developments carefully. She already has Lucky, her little courtier, and I suspect the royal household considers one favoured kitten is quite sufficient. Meanwhile, I still had a book to launch. Launch day came for And Along Came Bill, and it was very different from the launch days I know from my Suki Queen of Cats children's stories. Now, with Suki books, I know the rhythm. There are books to deliver, ambassadors to work with, promotions, press releases, and all the other things that belong to that particular kind of launch. Jan time is different again. Those books are nuggets. Each one has a particular purpose, and they don't really need a launch day. I simply put them out into the world. But, And Along Came Bill is very different again. This is my first chapter book, and it's very special to me. I believe in it. I believe in what it's saying. AI is a tool. That's all. It isn't something we have to be frightened of, nor does it need to be anything that will take over everything we do. We have choices. We decide how to use it, when to use it, and when we don't. We can also decide that we don't want to use it, and that's okay. We can find the tools that suit us and tailor them to the way that we work, rather than shoehorning ourselves into somebody else's way of doing things. That's what And Along Came Bill is really all about. And that's what it's about for me. And that deserved a launch. So, what did I do on launch day? I checked YouTube links. I tidied SEO and metadata. I checked the ISBNs. I made sure everything went where it was supposed to go. I published my launch video. I made shorts. And then I realized I'd created all these shorts without a longer video for them to actually lead people towards. So I wrote a mini story. For goodness sake, Jan, is this going to be done? Somewhere amongst all of that, I cleaned. I went into the garden and pulled out some potatoes, and I remembered press releases. A press release. I probably should have done one of those, and still the list grows. I'm planning an audiobook. I've never made one before, so that's another adventure. I'm thinking about the wider distribution. I'm considering a hardcover. Apparently, publishing the book doesn't mean I've finished publishing the book. And somewhere along the way, something else has happened to my brain. I've stopped thinking entirely in pounds or dollars and cents. I am now thinking in books. If something costs £20 or $20, how many books is that? A bill arrives. How many books? Something needs doing around the house. Books. I suspect this might continue for some time. And when I look back at this week, what strikes me really isn't how busy it was. It's how ordinary so much of it was. I published a book I deeply care about while painting walls, selling appliances, making pot pies, pulling out potatoes, exercising, talking to my family, and receiving increasingly complicated reports from the Meow of the North. Life didn't stop because I had to launch a book. The book simply found its place inside the life I was already living. And perhaps that's what you don't see when you look at the finished book, or when you watch the Serene promotional video. The camera gives you the frame. It doesn't show you the tumble dryer beneath it. And perhaps that's okay, because the calm woman sitting on the couch was real. So were the shorts and the paint on her knees. So was the exhaustion. So was the excitement. And so was the book. I thought writing, and along came Bill, was the story. Then I had to build it, proof it, correct it, publish it, find somewhere for it to live, launch it, and work out what comes next. Writing the book wasn't the end of the story. It was simply where the plot thickened. Thank you for joining me for The Plot Thickens. Until next time, keep noticing the stories that happen while the stories are happening.